Armageddon chess, cooking competitions, all that you could possibly hope for. I might be young, but I'm ready, and I hope so is Super Grandmaster Peter Svidler, who is still ailing. How you doing, Peter?
We'll see. I'll live. The least, the less we talk about it, the more cheerful I will be, I suspect. And so let's jump straight into the things. And I
Must control myself. All right, let's jump into it.
I tried not giving you any easy shots at goal there. What did I do wrong?
No. You just said the less we mention your excruciating pain,
yeah, okay.
the more cheerful you will be.
I thought also
Note to self: don't bring up Peter's back issues.
yeah. Mea culpa to start. I will not be able to dazzle our audiences with the personal head-to-head stats today because
I can do it, no problem.
because I'm an idiot.
No problem at all. I know these things. Carlsen versus Ding. No one's ever won a game between these two. 8 draws in classical. Will Magnus Carlsen finally come through and defeat Ding, the world number 3, in a classical chess game? We will never know. Maybe we will know in a couple hours. Vishianan versus Yu Yang Yi. No classical games, believe it or not. So this is their first encounter in a long chess game. Liv on Aroni and Wesley, so they have some boring balanced score. I think 3-2 in Livon's favor. They've played quite a bit over the years, of course. Mamedyarov MVL. This is a surprisingly unbalanced one, where MVL has been struggling big time against Schach. I believe it's something like 6-1 in classical games with a bunch of draws thrown in there. Mamedyarov has Maxime's number. It's 0043XXXX. Alexander Grishuk versus Fabian Caruana. 3-3 in classical chess games. And a bunch of draws. Grishuk with the white pieces has not really found his way into the tournament yet. But maybe yesterday's Armageddon will get him started. There you go.
How do you know this?
Come on. It's what I do. I'm not sure if I was right, but I think I was in the ballpark.
No, the Mamedyarov MVL in particular, I remember looking at this for some previous tournament that we covered and being really surprised by how one-sided their games are. In particular, because they seem to be. Actually, will you agree with this? If I say they seem to be sort of stylistically, close players and.
I think they're very similar stylistically.
Yeah.
They both play a narrow opening repertoire. They're both incredibly gifted tacticians, have a great feel for the game. But there's something about Mamedyarov's game that throws MVL off. I'm not quite sure what it is.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
a way, Mamedyarov is a bit more classical. I'm not sure if that's the term. No, it's really hard to say, but something he can't handle. Maybe going for complications doesn't work as well against Schach. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that actually is something I probably wouldn't agree with because I don't think Schach is a more sort of classically upbrought chess player. I think MVL has a very well-rounded chess education.
No, I didn't mean that. I can't quite put my finger on it.
It's strange because to me, I can't really see why Mamedyarov specifically would be a bad match for MVL. But we'll see how today's games go. Things are about to kick off, and there is Schach on our screens, or at least we had Schach on our screens, and now we have somebody's extremely
Magnus's bodyguard.
muscular triceps there. Yeah,
That's impressive stuff.
is that an actual bodyguard?
I have no idea. He looks strong.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not Peter Heine.
shots fired.
No, it's just not Peter Heine.
Yeah.
Peter Heine looks very strong too. but that's not it.
Also, it's just not Peter Heine, but shots fired nonetheless. Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting to see because to find out if they're hiring such burly assistant arbiters there, maybe they expect that Armageddon may end up in some disagreements, and they need to be able to enforce the peace.
Could very well happen. On the screen, by the way, I was watching the women's candidates
Yeah, and
tournament before
it continues
we went live.
kind of unabated. Yeah, Garechkin is now 2 full points ahead of the field and seemingly doing very well today as well, judging by the position I see on my screen. I mean, it's a mess, but I think it's a mess that should favor black greatly. So yeah, I mean, the whole narrative of, yes, it's a huge lead, but there's a lot of rounds to go. At some point, we should stop probably saying that and start saying she's completely running away with it.
It's certainly starting to feel that way.
Yeah, like 2 points with, what, 6 rounds to go, I think?
She was on 6.5 out of 8, 2 points ahead, and looked like she was winning again today. Therefore, no one else, if Lechner were to lose, would even have a plus score in the tournament, I believe. So
yeah, that's...
she's cruising. Skoryechkina.
You heard it here first, folks, yeah. Skoryechkina indeed, yeah. And Magnus opens with 1e4, and maybe this is somebody making the first move, because the pawn kind of immediately went back on our screen. So.
Yeah, it looks like there's some testing. Looks like the cams are worse today again. Tech people, what's going on? Need help.
Jan talking to imaginary friends yet again.
Not friends, but people that can do stuff. Kidding, Jose. You know consider you a close friend. But please help us. C4. Magnus changes his mind apparently, and went for the c-pawn. As mentioned, never defeated Ding in a classical game, which means Ding, along with you, is one of the very few top players that have a balanced score against Magnus Carlsen. Because pretty much everybody else, not called Nepomniachtchi, is in a small to big minus.
Yeah, I attribute my still decent score against Magnus to the fact that I very rarely play him these days, but yeah, I am still on 50%. It's something to be eternally proud of.
And you're not gonna apologize for it?
No, not early on in the show though.
Vichy, another Petrov. Why does everyone play e4 against Yu Youngye? He's solid in these Petrovs. Play d4, c4, some other move.
It's not as if he's not solid in other openings either, but yeah, it's a bit interesting because people haven't really been getting very far, because Sasha seemingly had a very pointed bit of preparation against Yu Youngye, and all he got was a position which at best was ever so slightly better for him, and ended up losing it. The losing it part is largely, of course, to do with the fact that he's having a bit of a nightmare in this tournament, but still, yeah, Visha in particular can make any first move and has absolutely encyclopedic knowledge in more or less every opening known to man. So it's very, very interesting, and like you kind of feel maybe today is the day somebody will show us what to do against the Petrov, but we generally end up being disappointed.
Well, there is no way to be shown what to do. You can choose different positions, and if black plays him well, knows what to do, he will hold. And so far, Yu Youngye has been doing that fairly efficiently. Therefore, yeah, I'm a bit surprised. Then again, Vichy 2019 edition mainly sticks to his guns, to his 1e4, so he's not jumping around all that much, is he?
No. But once again, you have to ask yourself at which point your opponent's opening repertoire might start influencing you kind of changing your habits a little bit. And for Vichy, it would not be really a particularly big blow to have to play a closed opening for one day. I mean, he knows what he's doing there. But yeah, we'll see.
We see more goofy Englishes from Levon.
Yeah.
He's told his team, guys, this tournament we play c4 and then d3 every opportunity we get. Doesn't matter if they go c5, e5. So work it out. Ideally, if we can throw in some h4, let's make that happen, but you gotta wait for g6. So this time he goes for 2 d3. This has been played on and off. I think Grishuk had a game against Kramnik and others. The main problem I thought people had encountered was this move bishop b4 check. But Wesley decides to go knight f6. Can hardly be wrong.
Wesley, yeah, just says, I don't really understand why this is any good. You make your moves, I don't really care. A3 g6 played very quickly. Also not the most obvious choice, but like a perfectly reasonable choice.
You can always play the knight off with colors reversed, but Wesley not in the mood. Goes for g6.
Yeah.
h4 seems off the table with the knight on f6.
Yeah, I don't
Carlsen
think...
structure is there with e4, but I don't expect that either.
Yeah, probably some sort of, and as I was about to formulate what I thought about this position, Lev immediately proved me wrong. I thought he was going to switch to some reasonably classical Englishes with knight c3 and then g3, bishop g2, but he goes knight c3, e3, saying that I would very much like to insist we play a Sicilian today with colors reversed. Wesley obviously can continue refusing and can play just d6 and play the kind of a King's Indian-ish structures against this unassuming opening, but you can play g5 at any point and play what amounts to a g3 Scheveningen.
Yeah, I would expect him to castle and play d5 at some point. How bad can it be?
No, it's not bad, but it's a playable position. These g3 lines, in particular, if, let's say if we talk about g3 Sicilians, if black is in time to play both bishop e7 and bishop d7 without allowing knight takes e6, bc, they are supposed to be quite safe, and there white will have an extra tempo compared. So Lev is also not unhappy about this at all, I'm sure.
We shall see in Shakhmatyarov versus Maxime-Vachier Grave.
This is curious, yeah. It's really not supposed to be anything at all, but it's a rare line and people sometimes don't quite remember what you're supposed to be doing against it.
I think Shach has done this before, no? Like, go g3 here, his point being he hasn't committed to knight f3 yet.
Not in a while, but I think, yeah, he has done this at some point. Yeah, the point for
this
black...
used to be the main one, no?
And it's important to go queen a5 prior to castling here. No, I mean, after knight f3 we transpose to all the well-known positions you get. I think e3, the way to kind of avoid the English here is to play e3. And there I think it's important to start with queen a5 to, after knight e2, have the option of taking on d4 and forcing white to take with the e-pawn. The line exists, but it was never really supposed to give much of anything at all to white, and I'll be curious to see if Shach just wants to actually transpose to those... I don't know why I call them English. They do sometimes appear in some symmetrical English, but c5, knight f3. This is, I think, if black remembers his notes, is a forced draw basically after knight c6, and you can even take on d4 twice.
Bishop e3 now?
Is this something new and relevant?
I wouldn't call it relevant, but it has been seen before.
Yeah, for sure, but like to my eyes this cannot possibly be anything, but maybe I'm just wrong. They used to just go castles, and if you castle they went, I think, rook b1. I think I had a game against Ruslan Panamarev from this position, which went like this. Castles, rook b1, and I played, I think, b6 here with the intention of playing d5, bishop f5. It's kind of a weird position. This doesn't quite work because knight e5, bishop a8, bishop f5 is very strong. There's all kinds of slightly weird theory here, which I remember only vaguely, but I remember that the last time I looked at this, knight f3 here would lead to positions which are kind of solvable.
Is that my phone producing all these noises?
Isn't it the door?
No, it's your or my phone. Suspect it's yours, but switch off mine.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
No,
might be mine. I don't really
something
recognize.
Ringing.
Yeah, I thought it was the door.
No. Which game have we not seen yet? We haven't seen Grishuk, Karana, and it's a Sveshnikov. There was a bit of an outcry yesterday when MVL went knight d5 against Magnus Carlsen. People were saying, why does he not test him in the main line? Why not go bishop g5? I was arguing that knight d5 is a bigger test than bishop g5. It's actually a more solid move these days. And I stand by that opinion. I have a feeling, Grishuk mentioned he's sort of done with the tournament, he's a spectator now, that he doesn't want to push his chances all that much. Therefore plays a very, very solid setup. So here, after b5, both bishop f6 and knight d5 are main lines. Knight d5 somewhat more popular these days. Takes, c3, c4. They used to play for a bit, but nowadays b4 is pretty much a draw. So c3 here. The traditional main line is short castles, and after knight c2, black would choose between rook b8 and bishop g5. But the problem is rook b8 is often met by h4, which is an interesting move, and bishop g5 is met by a4, which has its own body of theory. That's sort of dangerous. But black at some point figured, I can have the best of both worlds by delaying castles for a move, starting with rook b8, and after knight c2, go bishop g5. When h4 is pointless, the bishop goes away. a4 is theory, but you take, and the rook immediately hits b2.
And there's an additional sort of a subplot here, which is the Sveshnikov has been on and off, but currently very much on Sasha's own repertoire with black. So this is one of the rare openings where you can definitely expect him to actually blitz out 25 moves without stopping, because all of this will be extremely fresh in his mind, even if he didn't prepare it for Fabi today.
He's played this thing with black against Dominguez. He's had a few battles, probably many others as well. The problem is, I would expect maybe Fabi won't blitz it, but he will also know 25 moves, and then you shake hands. So you need to come armed here. All this is well known. Bishop d7 is a move. Castles, knight c6 is probably best avoided. No, I was just thinking as I said it, there was some line where you can castle, but I think it's not here.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be... although even though it's a mess, you go queen b6, knight b8, queen b2, I suspect, yeah, and... yeah, doesn't immediately look to me like this is completely unplayable, but probably white just goes bishop b2 and says, if you take on c3, the knight probably escapes, and if you don't take on c3, you are an exchange down, and why are you allowing this?
Yep, Fabi taking a bit of time, but I do not think he's surprised here, because especially if you prepare the setup, which Magnus has played himself as well, with rook b8, bishop g5, directly against a4. The first move you look at is nonetheless a4, which has also featured in Super Grandmaster practice. So hard to imagine Fabi's out of book here. It's probably more one of those things. What does he want? Does he want to make a draw in the line we both know? Does he have a fresh idea? Where could it be? What do I have to avoid? That sort of thinking.
Yeah. And Mr. Dodgy says, I don't even understand how you prepare for these guys who play everything. They were always my favorite opponents because I just wouldn't prepare. I just thought, okay, if I play, let's say, a game against Chuke, with frankly either color, but in particular with black, there's no way I can guess the first move. Why not just read a book, or take a walk, or, you know, do something? So yeah, I think not everybody shares the same approach, but I've heard other people also express that particular.
Well, against Chucky, everybody sort of took the day off because he literally plays everything. And also, it wasn't like it was going to be a topical line, it was the line. He thought of the night before, so it could be anything. But I somewhat disagree when it comes to these discussions in the very topical openings, like the Sveshnikov, the Petrov, the Berlin. These openings everybody plays, even though you don't know on any given day is Fabi going to play the Berlin, the Petrov, the Sveshnikov. It's still openings. All the professionals work on all the time.
Yeah, and it's part of the zeitgeist, so to speak. And in particular, these guys, they all will not feel like their memory is very hazy on these most topical openings, because they must have at some point repeated them during every single tournament.
Most of these guys are also playing them with both colors.
Yeah.
We're talking like Berlin, Sveshnikov. Those could very easily feature with colors reversed as well between these two. All right, let's see what Magnus is up to.
People are saying Queen b3 is a novelty, and it might be, because I mean it's a reasonably known line, but not a line which has seen, I think, hundreds of games. So it's possible to find fresh ideas.
Yeah, c4 knight f6. This move actually used to be directed against 2g3 because people would go c6, but this has its own body of theory now. Magnus lost a game to live on here, and he doesn't seem to mind to go for it with white. So Ding says, okay, I was just kidding around, I will go e5 anyway. White goes bishop g2. The point of delaying knight c3 is that now you're not getting hit with these bishop b4s, where Magnus, of course, had many games recently as well. And the drawback is that you allow all these c6-based systems, either c4, e5, g3, c6, or knight f6 followed by c6. That's what Ding does. White has a choice here between knight to f3, after which e4 is played, knight d4, d5, and so on. Or the move Magnus plays, d4, When e takes d4, queen takes d4 is considered somewhat bad for white. It's playable, but white doesn't mind this normally.
Yeah, I could never, like I tried this with white, and frankly I'm surprised more people don't do this with black, because I think it's just fine objectively. But yeah, the two main moves here are e4 and bishop d4 check. And it's interesting that Ding goes for e4 out of those two, because I thought bishop d4 check was kind of safer and more to his preference in general.
I think e4 is absolutely the critical move in this position. And yeah, white faces a choice, knight c3. Magnus doesn't seem like he wants to get pinned by bishop b4. And in order to stop that, he puts his queen on b3, which I would have to look up if it's been seen before. But yeah, it's certainly not a position with thousands of games. Ding played this line against Vichy in the past. Vichy went d5 here, which is also very critical. But Ding managed to get decent positions. I'm not sure of good positions, but playing something like bishop b4, bishop d2, queen e7. I can't remember what Vichy did, some e3 or a3, with a very weird structure. But Ding seems comfortable repeating that. And Magnus says, no thank you, let's fresh it up. d5 looks like the obvious move. But then,
yeah, I think c takes d5 might be the point. Although, yeah, I'm not sure, because c5, c5, bishop g5, compared to the usual lines, black cannot play, well, he can, but there will be a pawn sacrifice if you go bishop b6 here. Although it might be fine, yeah, bishop b6, queen b7, knight d7. Knight c6 is what worries me, yeah. Knight 6, but maybe I can go... How bad is if I get really greedy, actually? Like if I take and take on d5?
not sure. Looks scary.
It does look scary, but I'm not sure why you're developing my pieces.
Thought I was developing my pieces too.
Yeah, well, if you allow me e3, I might be able to stabilize. I was more worried about some lines with knight takes d4, queen takes e4, and then some move at tempo, but maybe there is no real good move that serves the purpose there. Like queen e4, bishop b7, is bishop f5 a threat, and if it is, how are we dealing with it? Maybe maybe e3 is good enough. I don't know. Really weird position, but yeah, cd5, I think there's a point to cd5, but it also develops, kind of gives black this knight c6 option, which probably isn't that great. You can play bishop g5 immediately, you can play knight c3 immediately. Those, I think, are your three choices here. I don't think we're playing anything else here with white.
No. Knight c3, you have to wonder if dc4
yeah, exactly.
followed by bishop e6 or followed by b5 is an issue. But yeah, bishop g5, certainly an option as well. One theme I'm not sure if here, if you go bishop g5 early, is often knight bd7 can be a bit of an idea, intending to play h6 and recapture with the knight here. I've seen some games something along these lines where now this bishop goes to f4 and you're arguing, haha, you put your knight on d7. So these things exist, and white, could go for gold early on. But overall, yeah, I don't think Ding is too surprised by queen b3. Played d5 reasonably quickly, and we'll see what Magnus has up his sleeve.
Is 5 queen b6 playable, asks Pawn Pusher, I assume instead of d5. I would hesitate to make that move, but yeah, I don't think it's unplayable. It's just
bad.
Doesn't feel critical, but yeah, I wouldn't be off the top of my head able to say why exactly. Why exactly?
Now we go bishop g5.
Queen g4? Just knight c3 or some very romantic approach. Because we are.
I just want my pawn back.
Because we are incurable romantics. And Magnus goes knight c3, which is actually very interesting, since it's a pawn sacrifice, at least technically. You can go dc4, queen c4, b5, as Jan mentioned, and just pick up on d4 next move.
Yeah, if you want to... yeah, you can do it immediately. You can also go bishop e6 first.
Yeah, but then queen d1 or queen c2 both become an option. b5 actually, at least for the time being, wins a pawn. Queen d4, and if you play something like bishop b3, I have queen b4, which is quite relevant, I think. Otherwise, bishop b3 would probably be extremely strong. But clearly Magnus has something here. You don't make these moves at this speed without having a clear-cut idea what to do. Maybe bishop g5 is strong, for instance.
Little pieces, bishop f4, or bishop e3, bishop f4, bishop g5. I think black can't hang on to this pawn.
Probably, but it will take white some time to win it back, and I'm not entirely, like, I wouldn't bet against this being playable for black, but I'm not sure if it's best play, and I'm also not sure if Ding will go for it.
Yeah. We'll find out. Hookjoch is saying there are 4 games in Carlsen position, all won by black. There you go.
Interesting that. Yeah, the Petrov, this I think is a very kind of a topical, even I want to say, way of playing this exact line. But I think like most of the games I remember starting from this position ended in a draw, it feels to me. And black goes knight a6, knight c7, rook a8, bishop f8, and white has some pressure along the e-file for a while, but eventually the fact that black has no pawn weaknesses and a reasonably well coordinated pieces just kind of wins out, and black just holds.
So yeah, some high level games here. I think Pomnish had some games, bishop f4, rook e2, rook a1, and you try to grab something or at least create an attack. But as usual, the more you stare at it, the more equal it becomes.
Yeah. And about the Aronian Wesley position, I was wondering if that was the case, and somebody actually confirmed it in chat, that this is what Vadim Milov played against me in the, I think, 2008 Jib Masters playoff, where we both finished on 8 out of 10 and played a 2-match playoff for most of the marbles, anyway. I wasn't better in that game, but I think I did end up winning it in mutual time trouble. Yeah, just a very, very typical g3 Scheveningen with an extra tempo. Has to be completely fine for white, but shouldn't be better by any stretch.
Yeah, knight takes c3, a very direct way to play this. You could think of more double-edged approaches. I don't know, go a5 and play more like they play with colors reversed, maybe go knight d7 and so on. But Wesley is very no-nonsense. Takes, goes a5, no b4, without some exchanges.
Dodgy says,
show me the money.
Dodgy says 8 out of 10 humble brag. Not very humble. It's I haven't won very many tournaments apart from the Russian championships in the last 2 decades, and Jib Open 08 is one of those, so I'm very proud of my achievement there.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
No, I don't want to watch this, Petrov.
Yeah.
You were right, they went for this stuff. This I also thought was sort of a draw.
You know, this is supposed to be completely equal. I think the main line goes something along the lines of bishop b3, queen c4, and then they jump around and like bishop d5, queen a6, queen b3, and then a move. Dodgy says 8 out of 10 brag. Exactly. We got there eventually. So yeah, and MVL playing this quickly and not really hesitating much means that he feels he will be able to reconstruct it, or maybe he even repeated it recently, because some precision actually is required here from black. You can actually go wrong here and end up in an unpleasant endgame.
Yeah.
And
but I think it's also one of the lines you might repeat before the game when facing Schach. It's d4, c4,
yeah,
g3
it's
business.
not impossible, yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
stuff he's been doing.
yeah, Evans Gambit says, did Fabi blunder a pawn on d6? No, this is still very much sort of mainline theory. Even I might be able to reproduce the next few moves, or maybe not.
Jealous. Bishop d7 has been played. Bishop takes a6, queen to a5, queen takes d6.
Yeah, they go rook b6 here, and then I get somewhat... I mean, it ends up in some really weird positions with, I think, bishops against 2 rooks in some cases. There's also... Is queen d3 rook before here, or... Oh, no, yeah. I did have a look at this at some... There's also bishop e7 in some positions.
It's probably not one of those positions.
Yeah, because bishop e7, knight d5. No, this this is how it goes, right? Bishop e7, knight d5, rook b2, castles like bishop g8 or something. It's an extremely weird position, which is supposed to be a forced draw. And I think Sasha actually had games from this position.
Yeah. Queen d3 is on the board. As mentioned, until proven otherwise, I will assume. This is a memory test saying, my tournament isn't going well. You're the world number 2. You're not good at Armageddon. If you want to make, and with disclaimers, that Fabio, of course, is also a world-class blitz player, but the Armageddons haven't been going as well. So Grishuk is saying, if you want to make a theory draw, knock yourself out. Could be wrong, and there could be an idea coming. But I think this is more or less established drawish theory.
Mm-hmm. So we'll await developments, but both of them should be reasonably well read up on this. And,
Yeah.
The game might actually continue sort of at very quick pace for a while yet. Yeah, we'll return to this. There's people are saying Ding taking the bait, which I assume means he took on c4 and played b5. Oh yeah.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, that is actually quite striking. As I said, it doesn't look to me like this is bad, but it's also very committal and very sharp. So.
We're gonna get some action here.
Yeah. So what do you play here? Bishop somewhere. I think there's also a4, but a4 feels kind of vague, and I don't know if we should actually force black to play b5 before. It might be a very strong move. So yeah, bishop somewhere probably is a good starting point. g5 is my current frontrunner, but...
What say you, Mr. Magnus?
Yeah.
Mr. Dodge is saying the material correlation is white as a pawn down. That's correct, but whose king is safer? Who benefits from an exchange of queens? And what's the pawn structure like? Well, d4 is gone now.
And once again, whenever you see a position this sharp and this sort of non-forced in a sideline-ish, which both players can have a reasonable expectation of getting on the board, you have a feeling they probably both know, but not a given.
CP Carter is saying that glass is empty, Jan. That's just your view of the world. In my view, there is still life to be zipped from that very glass.
Also zapped.
Are you correcting zipped?
No. I just wanted to work the word zap into a sentence.
Wow.
And you gave me an option, so and I couldn't restrain myself.
What does that mean?
So 0 mana spell, does 2 damage.
Not following. We used to like have similar interests, stuff to talk about. Nowadays, everything you say on and off the chessboard is just way over my head. What happened? Rookie 2 happened here.
It's too sad to contemplate, so let's start contemplating it immediately.
No, I wouldn't call it sad. It's just curious. Pawn pushers are saying refill needed, Jan. Yeah, we have Magnus water. It's empty. Oh,
Yeah, I'll bring you more.
No. I have coffee. Go away. Okay, thank you. So what is this round thus far? We have what promises to be a very exciting game in Carlsen versus Ding. We have what promises to be a very dry Petrov in Anand versus Yu Yang-yi. Yu Yang-yi has a very decent pawn hub in the center. I don't think he will get into too much trouble here. There is the game Aronian versus Wesley So. I don't know. Given Levon's latest stylings with the white pieces, this almost looks dry, even though it's very... well, not non-standard, but non-theoretical play in the opening too. But he didn't get as crazy position as he's been getting regularly with his early H4, F4 businesses.
Yeah. It could still get slightly lively, because black in general in this position, if we talk about the Chev, goes for some kind of a plan like knight. I mean, in this position, it would be a sequence of moves like, let's say, queen c2, knight d2, rook a1, and f4. Then it does sometimes get a little bit lively after all that. But obviously, Wesley will have something to say about this, because it's unlikely Lev will be allowed to make 5 moves in a row without black also doing something. And I'll get to your question on get 25, but I feel like I must, ration the references to non-chessboard games.
We're all delighted by a little Pokemon talk. Go ahead.
No. I actually, surprising as it may sound with all of my constant pointless references, I actually do enjoy chess and would like to
People know that.
continue talking about chess, but I've ignored questions from Monge for the entire day yesterday for this precise reason, because I felt that you will not approve of me suddenly speaking for like 10 minutes non-stop on a non-chess related topic, but I might not be able to restrain myself for much longer.
No, I'm very fine with straying away from chess, as you know. Actually, finer than you, because you properly enjoy the game of chess and enjoy giving insightful commentary on it. I just get annoyed if I don't get the references. It's nothing to do with the non-chess.
Fair, yeah, that's actually very fair. I'm slightly surprised with queen takes d4. Queen takes d4 to my eyes feels like Shah just wants to play Armageddon today, to be honest. I think queen b3 was... bishop b3, not queen b3. Move 13 instead of queen takes d4.
I think he's just making a draw now, which is strange, because MVL is his customer.
Yeah. After bishop e3, I'm pretty sure there were some games where white got somewhere. It's not completely... well, it might be solved, but at least you can make mistakes. Whereas the way Shah is playing this, I don't think you can actually even make a serious mistake anymore. Rook d8, bishop takes b7 played, and again, here I think queen d1, rook d1 you might not equalize actually. I think you're supposed to play queen c4.
Yeah.
Like I'm as sure about this as I'm generally sure about opening theory, which is not very sure, but yeah, the position they have. If we just come back to the game, bishop b7, I think they go rook b8 and they just smile. Like
I've seen this in last round draws and so on. Like, this is, not a very serious line, which is, as mentioned, curious, because MVL got a blitz and not the scariest opponent for Mamedyarov. Then again, poor Mamedyarov, whatever he does, would criticize him. If he repeated 1 c4, knight c3, knight 3, e3 for the 4th time, we would say he always does the same nonsense. Now he deviates, plays something offbeat. But then again, he's just forcing a draw, so... I don't know, maybe guys are tired, all these Armageddons.
yeah, and it will feel like we're mocking them slightly, but I don't think it's... well, I mean, they're playing round 6, they've had one day off, so on paper it's not the most physically strenuous tournament in the history of chess, but playing 2 games per day with dramatically different time controls is actually trickier than people realize. I remember in the sort of bad old days when the World Cups, at least in the first rounds, used to have tie breaks on the same day as a second game of the classical. Those were hell. Like you spent your first 10 minutes of rapid trying to adjust to the fact that you can't actually think about things in the opening. There's no way you should be tanking for even a minute and a half on a decision. You kind of know which one you will choose. And yeah, those weren't fun at all. And one of the best changes in my living memory was abandoning that schedule.
I do have a bigger point I wanted to ask you about, and I haven't done the math. But my guess is that this Armageddon, well, that's excitement, but the intention must also have been to sort of discourage draws in some way, no? Or I'm not sure, but that was my interpretation. Like, if the players know they have to play a decisive game anyway, they might as well play in the classical game. And I feel the opposite effect has been in place. Like, there is this phenomenon sometimes, Magnus was talking about this much more eloquently than me, that if you can delay defeat, there is a strong urge to do so, even though it is not maximizing your EV. So players maybe subconsciously might have an incentive to actually make a draw, because they know there's always the Armageddon, while obviously if you lose the classical, the game is over. So I guess my question is, do you think there's some truth to this having the opposite effect, or is it small sample size, the usual?
Yeah, I don't think we have enough data, but I can see, I mean, in this field, off the top of my head, I would say, I want to say everybody, but that's probably not true, because you can always find some corner cases, even though I wouldn't be able to confidently name who that would be. These guys like playing blitz. So I don't think, and yes, I mean, there are stakes. This is not friendly blitz after the game. This is not them, I don't know, playing Bughouse after the famous pastime of these people. Once the elite tournament is finished, they just find an empty room somewhere and sit there playing Bughouse for an additional...
So sickening. Like,
yeah, like...
finished a grueling 9-11 rounds chess tournament. Guys, let's find 2 chessboards and play some Bughouse all night.
Yeah,
they do drink during it.
Yeah, I mean, it's slightly in jest, but I mean, they do like shorter time controls, and I have a feeling that despite this being very serious business, and I assume money being at stake, and prestige and all these things, I don't think an idea of playing a blitz game later discourages them very much.
Well, that's sort of what I'm saying, right? If it motivates them, because you get another blitz game, which you might even enjoy, and also you get another shot at 1.5, which is a very respectable score.
I'm sort of agreeing with you. Once again, I think the sample size is just too small for us to make any kind of long-term conclusions. But yeah, I'm sort of agreeing with you there. I think with these guys in particular, this system will not scare them away from playing, let's say, normal, stable openings, which do increase the likelihood of a draw.
No system would do that, I would guess. But yeah, it feels like there's somewhat more draws, not necessarily without play, but then you would get usual with this field. Also, there could be the opposite effect, that the predators like Magnus, who I think even here is trying to win every game, but also he knows that if the game ends in a draw, let's say he has black, there will be an Armageddon where, because of him being Magnus, he is probably favored. So he can pick up 1.5 points. He's won all the Armageddon so far. Therefore, in games like yesterday, not saying this couldn't exactly have happened in a classical tournament, but he probably doesn't mind very much of the game with black ends in a draw and whatever. 20 moves, and he can then win the Armageddon. So far, it's certainly been going his way.
Sure, and this also kind of cycles back to this argument that I will at some point probably have to, in particular once the tournament is over, I think many people will be doing this, and I think I will also fiddle around with the numbers a little bit, whether changing the weight of the Armageddon game to something we had this discussion once.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, cut it in half.
Yeah, would maybe disincentivize Armageddon enough for people to start taking more risks in the classical, because the way the scoring system is right now, I think 1.5 points instead of 2 really doesn't sound that bad at all. You know, you play a fun game of chess if you win it or draw it with black, you get almost the full points. What's not to like? I think the way the system is right now, it's a very healthy attitude to have.
Yep. We'll see. I'm still enjoying everything about it. This wasn't necessarily meant as a criticism. It just felt like there are more draws than maybe the organizers bargained for. Or maybe they did take that into account and think, okay, we'll get Armageddon action every day. It's also fine.
Lion Ping says 93 for Magnus comes immediately to mind.
Bishop e3.
But yeah, sorry. I'm wondering what Magnus could check as an alternative. Bishop g5 is a very...
Bishop anywhere.
Yeah, bishop f4 as well, but I think bishop e3 and bishop g5 are the two most forcing moves in the position. I think it's mainly between those two.
I was also thinking about a4.
Yeah, we did
slow.
mention, but actually I mentioned it and I said before might be.
Yeah, I thought before bishop e3 now.
Yeah, queen e5, queen e7. Yeah. Because actually the knight will have to go to some really unfortunate squares after that. I mean, before is a queen e7 in particular, ugly moves. But if I force you to play knight b1 here, how unhappy am I? So yeah, it's probably between bishop e3 and bishop g5. Bishop f4 does give black, I think, sort of additional time to do the things he wants to do, like bishop e6 and then bishop b4, develop two pieces, not even losing the e4 pawn yet.
Yep.
People are saying Fabi misplayed the game against Grishuk, but I think...
Oh, Fabi, forgot your theory?
This is not what you're supposed to do, but I can't remember why, obviously. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to do what we were discussing. Yeah, the bishop e7, rook b2 line. This is...
I have to admit, I've seen this line before, and I've seen like the final positions, and they're a draw, but I can't reproduce this move by move. I would have to
exactly.
check the database, which I can do actually. Let's have a look. Yeah, rook b6, queen d3. Short castles is what you do here. And instead Caruana played bishop e7, which does not find Compy's approval.
Yeah, but the games are reasonably old, actually, apart from... I mean, no, there's a...
I'm looking for this Dominguez Grishuk game, which I was talking about. I'm trying to figure out how that went. I think here it is. So let me see. Yeah, it was...
No, that game definitely
Queen
went...
d6, rook b6, queen d3,
and bishop e7, yeah.
Bishop e7, not bishop e6.
Mm-hmm. This is what we were
The
discussing.
benchmark.
Yeah.
Instead, bishop e6 was played by Caruana, which the computer doesn't seem to mind, but after castles he says, now you should not go bishop e7, but short castles, if I read this correctly. So, Grishuk's semi-bluff, or I was thinking of it as a semi-bluff, who knows, testing Fabi's memory in a line that I'm sure Fabi has seen before, but maybe didn't expect today. This might be paying off, who knows?
Yeah, and...
So why is this bad? Let's explain more. You explain.
Well, I obviously, once the Chess24 screen comes up, I can't stop myself from cheating. And the very simple move bishop c4 is quite strong here, because black ends up regretting not castling in time. Bishop c4, bishop takes b4, because I probably don't want to allow queen c8 check. And now we take on e6 first. Might not be very important to do, but I think why not? I mean, it's good business, good practice. And just queen c2 here. And you've lost the a4 pawn. You might still hold this, to be honest. Like, I look at this position, I think draw is probably the likeliest result. Something like queen b7 and then double or even treble on the b file. Probably ends up as some
4 versus 3 now.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, exactly. What probably happens is that white attacks the e5 pawn, black decides not to play f6 because that weakens the 7th and might end up with you getting mated. Then you trade b2 for e5 and you hold it, frankly, without breaking into too much of a sweat, I suspect.
Maybe we're actually blinded by the compy. Maybe it's one of those where Fabi has done very clean homework and he just knows this leads to a drawn rook ending, and who cares if the computer yells +1 at some point.
Yeah, exactly. And Virtuoso says, wow, I just ate some blueberries with cottage cheese. Wow, indeed. We envy you. That's the kind of cutting-edge commentary you can expect during this show.
I'm not sure. Is that like a match made in heaven? Blueberries with cottage cheese? Is that a common thing?
Sounds extremely nice to me, yeah. I'm a huge fan of cottage cheese in general, but yeah, and if they're good blueberries, what's not to like?
How do you distinguish good from bad blueberries? It's like ripeness?
Well, ripe and sort of not rotten. Yeah, because if you buy them prepackaged, sometimes the bottom the bottom row of the box will contain some completely inedible stuff, but you throw those away and you eat the good ones, and they are very good, and also apparently healthy, and so yeah.
How's the fruit market in Russia? Do you go to the supermarket? Do you have like grocery stores that only sell fruit? Like,
Yeah,
what's
both
the process there?
It's not really that different from what you would see here, apart from the fact that, for instance, dairy and some types of meat from the EU are now banned and are occasionally bulldozed.
Banned dairy?
This is the best part about this. This is what I really love about this story. Our government decided to introduce counter sanctions, to fight against the sanctions imposed on the country by the West. So they banned EU dairy and also some types of, like, you can't buy. There was a huge outcry from the hipster movement because you could no longer buy jamon in Russia, and
No jamon iberico?
yeah, no jamon iberico is obviously a huge blow to people. People have been subsisting on a diet of exclusively jamon iberico, but also like milk and dairy from Finland and all these things people kind of gradually became very used to over the course of the last 15 years. And occasionally, as a kind of a PR stunt, they confiscate this type of produce if somebody is found to be selling it, and then they bulldoze over it instead of, let's say, giving it to the needy. The needy do exist, and they probably would eat it quite happily, but bulldozing over it is what they choose to do with it.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Blueberries, so he doesn't have to ask for a seventh time. Saying, Jan, in the method you also mentioned working with Josef in the past. Can you talk a bit about your experience working with him? Yeah, that wasn't any regular training or something. We both used to play for the Hamburg Chess Club team in, I think, the early 2000s. And there was the occasional session before Bundesliga games or after Bundesliga games. It was mainly openings. It wasn't so much method and calculating. I can't remember what we looked at. I think in those days, probably some Caro-Can, some King's Indian, some Grunfelds. He's a D4 player. So it was mainly some opening sessions preparing for games. But as you can tell by the commentary, no work was done in making me a better chess player. It was mainly just,
I played for the same club as Josef in the French league for a period of years, and he was an absolutely spectacular dinner companion. Like, some of the stories he told were, frankly, stunning and hard to believe. He's lived a very interesting life. Met all kinds of people. He was very involved in the Karpov-Kasparov matches of the mid '80s, and he has some stories to tell from those years. But yeah, some of those really sounded like Area 51. And I remember just sitting there completely kind of slack-jawed and thinking, if 10% of this is true, my world is not what it was 10 seconds ago.
Speaking of, it's not what it was 10 seconds ago. Magnus played bishop e3, queen b4, and bishop to d2.
Bishop d2 is a clever little move, yeah. Re-establishing the threat of knight takes e4, and also asking Ding if he wants to trade queens without developing the bishop on f8. Obviously, queen before, bishop before would satisfy Ding quite well.
So takes something.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to calculate. Either bishop f5 or bishop b6. It's a very kind of different approach. Bishop f5 attempts to hold on to the e4 pawn for the dear life, and bishop b6 attempts to just give it away, pick up the pawn on b3 and say, yeah, okay, show me. I actually quite like bishop f5. I was trying to calculate bishop b6 and not really enjoying it so much for black. But I don't know why this is bad. This looks fine.
Looks very healthy, no? Like knight b7 coming. I'm not quite sure.
I'm guessing it's some kind of g4, because like if you play slowly here, you will be much worse, I feel, no? Like if you play something like knight h3, knight d7, knight g5, knight c5, you might be close to lost, maybe, in my mind.
So what you want, g4?
Yeah, but g4, I mean, we take with, frankly, either piece, and why are we ever worse there with black? It's very confusing.
He must have some point, but I also don't really.
Yeah, I mean you
see
can play f3, but I think black just ignores it. Yeah, nobody.
B7.
Yeah, nobody
Oh,
takes.
yeah.
Nobody takes on f3, which I mean might also be fine. But knight b7, fe4, and bishop b6 just looks completely safe.
Yeah, I don't get it. I thought about this, and some super slow plan, but frankly, it just looks like black is better anyway.
Yeah, I mean h6 and
Yeah.
bishop b4 at some point. Yeah, it's really weird. Yeah, bishop f5 I kind of underestimated bishop f5. Maybe it's something like bishop g5, knight b7, rook a6, but once again I will play rook c8, give you the a7 pawn, and then play bishop c5 with tempo, and like, I'm picking black there. This knight on g1 does not really inspire confidence.
Well, looks like we have so many options now. Bishop e7 takes b4. I think I'm ahead in development. Might very well be winning.
Yeah.
Feels like we have some complaints about lack of chess content, and Mr. Dodgy is asking for no more words, only moves. That sounds like a reasonable request. Bishop e7, rook c6, b4, knight a4, castles.
Yeah. None of this is forced, obviously. You want a coffee or a smoothie or something? I need to.
Yeah, I'll handle it. Or do you want to get up?
I wanted to get up and stretch.
All right.
Actually,
Yeah, some water if we have water left. Take some water. And Ding has taken and played bishop f5. This is all a bit mysterious. Magnus, what is your point, sir? Something's gone wrong in the opening. It does feel like. Here after bishop f5. Yeah, all these lines we just had looked ridiculous. So, what did Peter say after g4? I should sometimes listen when he talks about stuff. Probably said takes somehow. But this still looks like the best bet to me. Knight e4 takes. Bishop. I guess black is fine, but at least these guys don't really get developed very quickly. Virtuoso saying f3 is interesting for Magnus, keeping the initiative. Stockfish suggests is also. I still like g4 better. But let's have a look. f3, we thought just develop. Why isn't black better of anything? Fe bishop e6. Unless there's some very direct e5 trick. Black is half a move away from being much better if we look at the pawn structure. So must be some e5 business, no? Tell me more. Takes. Take this guy, is this the point? Maybe. Okay, so f3 and go for direct action, yeah? That's the way? e5, knight e5, knight b5, as the Henker confirms. Yeah, thanks. Okay, that might still spark more joy than originally assumed. ef3 looks possible, but it feels slow. I don't know, knight takes and knight d4 looming. So maybe things aren't that clear after f3. It still feels shaky. Takes, bishop e6, this looks right. e5, do I have to take? Can I jump? Maybe white is okay here, no? Takes somehow, takes. At least we get our pawn back, and the black pawns are somewhat weird as well now. Even though these guys, not exactly a pretty sight. I would guess roughly equal. Who knows? Also, Magnus has been taking quite some time. Obviously, got here quickly, but after b5, started taking time. So, something's gone a little wrong. And Blueberries is pointing out, when you're statically worse, you play dynamically. Yeah, that is very true. But sometimes you're statically worse, and you play dynamically, and you're still worse. So, I do agree, like, if the game follows a general logic and you've done nothing wrong, but you have static weaknesses, then you can sometimes justify it by dynamic play. But in this case, I wasn't sure at all if Magnus was in trouble already. I've gotten some help from the community, and they've pointed out that f3 is not as bad as we initially thought, because after knight bd7, f bishop e6,
yeah.
there's e5, and now either knight b5 directly, or maybe start with this, and
Yeah, knight b5 is what I missed, yeah.
things aren't so clear yet. Oh, thank you. Blueberry is saying, sorry, I'm kind of obsessed with the method right now. Happy to hear that. Check out the video series. I found it very interesting. Like we talked the other day. Oh, sorry. About, yeah. I wasn't sure if I can apply it in my games, but I certainly learned a lot about concepts and about how to think about chess. So I recommended the method in chess with Josip Dorfman, now out on the good old Chess 24. But don't watch it now. Watch us, because we'll stick to chess.
And yeah, that sound I just made was probably the most authentic Mergle I ever made in my life. I'm very happy.
You an Angela Merkel supporter?
Well, I've been... yeah, I'm not sure actually, come to think of it. But it was a very authentic sounding sound.
Merkel. How did you feel about Annegret Kamp-Karrenbauer when they received a critical video arguing that maybe we should look into ways of legislating YouTube videos?
Making you talk is what, what I was expecting to hear at the end of that sentence. I'm not aware of any of those names and or places.
Annegret Kamp-Karrenbauer is the heir to Angela Merkel, who will step down after her current reign, and she is the new strong woman in charge of the CDU. But she got into some hot water when there was a critical video on YouTube. She said, let's look into this.
Ken829 says chess in all capitals. He might be trying to tell us something. I'm not entirely sure what, but we can try and guess. Anyway, the game between Shakhmatyarov and MVL ended unsurprisingly in a draw. For some reason it doesn't say draw on our screen yet, but it either already is or it will be in a moment, because I think there's a 30 move Sofia rules in place in the tournament. So
yeah, it doesn't matter. This game will end in a draw, and the writing was on the wall. Actually, already with the move castles, in my opinion, but then especially as mentioned when he did not go for bishop e3. So yeah, Shach likes his armor chances today, but as we've seen in the past, these things can backfire. There is a thing that in the industry we call Armageddon. If you force a draw with white, you might pay the price for it.
Yeah, somebody actually...
Giri tweeted that, I stole it, I have to admit.
I saw on my Twitter feed that somebody actually ran something called Armageddon recently, maybe Kimmel, or on one of the big talk shows in the US recently. There was a segment about Armageddon.
You know, I'm dying to talk about this, but Ken829
says chess
will literally,
yeah, capitally even,
capitally abandon us if we don't #stick to chess.
And see, I wasn't lying to you about the whole knight d2 f4 plan, although Lev decided not to play queen c2 and to keep an option of putting it on a different square later on. You generally take on b3 and play. I think this might still be very close to my game against Milov.
He's a bit obsessed with his f4, no? Then again, there was nothing going on the queen side, so you have to play somewhere.
No, yeah, that's frankly, once you've allowed a5, a4, this is the only active source of play you have, so...
Ken829 goes Armageddon in all capitals. Well played. I'm confused now, but much appreciated.
We really appreciate it, Ken. This makes a nice change from people doing that other thing constantly and relentlessly. Thanks a lot. We really appreciate it. And there's more all capital things in there by friend of the show Daijobu, who I'm very happy to see in chat. I can't even spelled in all capitals. I will not attempt to pronounce that. Annegret Karrenbauer?
Annegret Kamp-Karrenbauer. I can't do it myself.
Yeah. Anyway, takes. I guess queen d2, although maybe you can make an argument for queen e1 and then later to try and put it somewhere around g3. And if black opts for something very, very passive, like queen, I don't know, queen d6, let's say white takes.
Bishop b4.
Yeah, this blunders a
Okay, let's play the stupidest way.
Yeah.
Takes, rook f4, yeah.
Yeah, if you can imagine white sort of playing d3, d4, e4, and d5, he might be slightly better. But generally, black gets to do something about it. In particular, putting the pawn on f6, I think, is a very normal way of avoiding.
I was going to ask you, even this structure, I don't see many problems. Like, I'm not sure about the move order, but this looks decent, no?
Yeah, I don't think there are any. I think also the perception that there might be some problems here stems from the fact that, once again, this is the reversed colors, g3 Scheveningen, and in that Scheveningen, white attempts to get an advantage in these positions, and when he doesn't get an advantage, he feels kind of sad.
Yeah, it's very different once the tables are turned. This game is over.
Yeah. Unsurprisingly, so it is now 6 p.m. sharp. So somewhere around, I guess, 6:20 to 6:25, they will start the first Armageddon of the day. Carlson?
Before I forget, the new Shaun the Sheep movie is called Farmageddon. I was very upset, and I'm considering to sue them.
That's where I saw it. Yeah, I'm just brain dead today. It is the Shaun the Sheep reference. Yeah, and we generally love Shaun the Sheep, but not when they start stealing.
Not when they steal my IP.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's very upsetting. What are you doing, Shaun? And delayed Grob apparently in the Magnus game, which means he didn't play f3.
I went for g4. Yeah.
This is
While you were away, I was saying before chat started correcting me and pointing out these ideas after f3. The only sensible move I could actually see was g4.
Yeah, that's what we thought.
Knight g4, knight e4, and I wasn't sure how bad this was.
I'm taking with the bishop, I think.
I forgot which line you had given. Bishop g4.
I think I'm taking with the bishop here, yeah, and I'm playing bishop b7, castles, a bishop d6, and no, I mean I'm probably taking on e4 as well too.
Yeah, I was wondering about this type of position and b4 or bishop c3.
Yeah, castles.
I understand. I can't have pawns, but I wasn't sure.
Rook c8, and eventually it will come out of the corner, I'm pretty sure. And then, I mean, white probably isn't worse, but neither should be black.
Yeah, it doesn't look like playing for a win, but for a moment I thought white was much worse after bishop f5, so at least here. I don't know. The pieces look active enough. We've played dynamically to compensate for our static problems. That feels like this should hold. No, rook fc1.
Yeah, somehow you should be making a draw. And actually I kind of forcefully insisted on taking on e4 first when bishop b7 immediately might be stronger because it makes it, I think, more difficult for white to play knight f3.
Yeah, maybe I have to spend the tempo.
Yeah, but I think bishop c3 is kind of counterproductive because you're blocking your own c files.
So. That's what I mean.
Yeah. So I think I may have been just completely wrong on this point.
If I go b4,
castles.
Horse jumps don't do much.
Yeah, there you might actually be worse because I will play something like bishop b6, d5, and then knight b d7, and you know I do have more pawns on the board. And we've been completely ignoring the knight takes g4 option in the current position, but it might also be quite fine. Yeah, knight e4, bishop b7.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think black has any particular problems. The question is how can white generate enough compensation for the pawnies crimes?
Well, white is sort of saying the knight on b8 and the pawn on c6 are such a poor combo that there is always going to be enough play, but I'm not sure about always. You can probably keep the balance somehow with white, but yeah, this actually kind of looks even more sensible to my eyes now. It's not that easy to make a particularly attractive move.
Try to take your pawnsies.
Yeah. I keep on forgetting this exists as an idea. And a6 doesn't stop it either. So. Yeah. Can I go knight d7 instead of bishop e7 just to try and solve my... Oh no, knight g3 is quite strong.
Try to take your pawnsies.
Well, here I want to go rook c8 and claim that I'm fine.
Ah, you give me that and go
but
bishop
knight
c5.
knight g3 is very upsetting though. Because then you actually pick up some important stuff. I don't really mind losing a7. I do mind losing 6 with the tempo.
So decisions to be made for Ding. Even here actually, is this a move? If black decides not to exchange knights.
Yeah, could actually... Well, I mean, you're forcing me to play... Before knight b5 is probably the intention, yeah?
Yeah, I was gonna go knight b5 even before you said before. But yeah, that was the plan.
Yep.
This could be an idea, no? That would mean that black maybe has to take here, and now at least I get to do the knight f3 before business we were talking about.
I'm not even sure if you have to spend a tempo on b4. Knight f3, knight d4 might be a decent enough threat as it is. Like in this position, white to move, we go knight f3. I thought knight e5 was the plan, but actually knight d4 is a lot more annoying because we are threatening to pick up a pawn on b5 without developing or trading this horrible knight on b8.
If we keep it simple, you know it's a bishop.
Yeah, but now I think white is just completely safe and can actually...
Yeah, still unpleasant,
Yeah, a6 rook a7 maybe is a way to kind of try to solve, well, not all, but maybe most of our issues.
Let's play more dynamically. I don't want to give you pawns.
Yeah, missed that completely.
I'm not sure if it's any good, just looking
Yeah,
for
I think it's good, yeah.
ways to mix it. If you go, we take.
Yeah, we take and we play
Castle.
probably just castles. I don't see how this can be wrong in 97 next move.
Yeah, if the bishop abandons his diagonal. Also, 5 isolated pawns.
Yeah, that's
3 too many.
Yeah, that's a bit of a train wreck in terms of pawn structures.
All right. Still complications. Does not look like Magnus is better, really. But once again, it's a fresh, very complicated position. After 12 moves.
Europameister says, question to Petrov experts, of which I'm obviously not one. Which third move offers more chances for an advantage? Knight takes e5 or d4?
Knight takes e5.
Yeah, currently I think the thinking is very much that knight takes e5 is a better shot. There was definitely a period when d4 was maybe the more topical. I remember, like maybe late 90s, there was a lot of discussion in some very, very forced 3d4 lines, but they appear to have been
The problem is these old lines.
Yeah.
This kind of business. It's so forcing that modern technology has pretty much made them all go away.
3d4 these days, I think they connected with d4 knight takes e4 d specifically, which is a try, not really aimed at achieving much of an opening advantage, but a try to get a kind of a playable position with many pieces on the board. But even there, I think decent options have already been shown.
Yep, not a fan. So no, it's knight e5, and after d6, knight f3, knight e4. The two main moves are very much knight c3 and d4. After d4, you take very little risk. The type of positions you get are quite often something like this, where you are the slightly more active side in a symmetrical pawn structure. And more often than not, if black is careful, the game ends in a draw, but white is still pushing. While after knight c3, black has a big decision to make if he wants to go for the Yu Yang-Yi style treatment, which is very solid, but sometimes is slightly worse, like the first round against MVL, for example, or the Fabi treatment, which can lead to much more double-edged play with short castle.
There's also the 593 stuff, which is kind of... people haven't stopped playing it after the Carlsen Caruana World Championship match, which is, I think, very normal. When somebody like Magnus introduces an idea at the very, very top level, even if it doesn't really promise very much on the surface level, people will still try to repeat Magnus and see if something can be achieved by doing this. I've seen some recent games as well where people continued trying to look for small edges there, but yeah, shouldn't be very much.
Question about knight f7. Yeah, if you look at this with a computer, you never get very far because it just laughs in your face. But it looks cool at the very least.
Yeah, yeah. The Cochrane is fine until you actually start looking at it closely.
Aggregators. I'll be right back.
Why did you suddenly say aggregators?
Because you said the Cochrane is fine. It's fine until you start looking at it closely.
Okay. It's raining men, people. Hallelujah. Anyway, this is the position in the Magnus game. Our current thinking is that bishop takes g4, followed by, I guess, takes, and bishop e7 should be fine for black. In the Petrov, Vichy played rook a1, which kind of hints at him wanting to have the option of playing a3 later on in the game, but it's fine until you start looking at it closely. That's what she said, says Dodgy. Dodgy is never wrong. But yeah, the position is still very symmetrical. With the bishop leaving the d6 square, you do have some jumps to potentially look forward to, but it's an ugly move to make. But I wonder if black can maybe even afford to play simply f7, f6 here just to stop knight e5. Not a move you would like to make, and there in particular, and this is what he does actually. I'm quite surprised because, apologies, it felt to me like here in particular there is an explanation for rook a1 because white can play c5. There's now a threat of a3, so you probably play something like knight e6, and now we can play knight f5, and we have possibly achieved something because knight d6 is a significant threat. But now that I look at this position, maybe this tactic works. This is actually quite critical. If this works, black is obviously doing very well. If it doesn't work, white could have a large advantage. But it seems like it does work, because we are not in time to take on e8 first, and if we take on c5, black takes on e2, and then even after, let's say, knight h6 and queen takes e2, black picks up so many pawns in the center that he is clearly completely winning. I don't think this is computer prep VS. It's a sensible move because if you look at it, like if you look at this position dispassionately, it looks weird, but the rook doesn't really do anything on any of the first rank squares, apart from actually a1, where you can imagine a scenario in which it will support the a2, a3 idea. So I think rook a1 is quite logical. In other news, this game continues sort of, we continue being kind of correct about the direction it's taking, and I still stand by my opinion that this shouldn't really leave in kind of a broad equality area. I'm slightly surprised that f5 was allowed and then not played, but maybe it just doesn't do very much without knights on the board. Maybe it just doesn't create any threats. Queen g3, black normally can just take, let's say queen f4, rook f4, I don't know which one is better. Queen e7, rook a d8. Okay, I blundered the c7 pawn here, so I guess c6 has to be included somewhere, but it's not really such a problem. And people have been demanding the Grishuk-Caruana game, so let's have a look at that for a second. Here you go. It's way below. So yeah, it's proceeding sort of according to plan. Sasha will now take on b4. He's been thinking for a while, but I don't think there's anything smarter here than cb. Queen takes b4, queen c2. We mentioned this position. The pawn on a4 falls, but the suspicion has to be that black still is quite close to a draw here, due to the amount of pressure he can put on the extra b pawn.
Yeah. You said queen c2, short castles, rook a4.
Yeah, and queen somewhere. Yeah, I like b7, but I don't know if b5 is so wrong. I just like playing queen b7 in this position. Also keeps an eye on the e4 pawn, which might be semi-relevant somewhere. But obviously no reason for white to be sad about any of this. It's a healthy extra pawn for now, and okay, maybe you don't win, but you pressure with no risk for the next 50 moves if you want.
Oh, sorry. I have to
So yeah, Sasha for a change is clearly the more prepared player today, and he needs sorry, not needs. He is doing very, very well on the clock, and also will have a very nice solid edge with absolutely no risk attached, which is frankly a dream at this level.
Sorry, some tech interruption.
Yeah, I understand.
I'll be right back.
It's somewhat weird to me that the bishop has not been taken on before yet, because I can't really understand what other moves could he even consider. Oh, no, he's already taken. Yeah, that makes more sense, because c4 did appear to be really the only logical move you can make in this position. And even here, like if you don't play queen c2, you might never win this pawn. So.
What's he thinking about? Queen a3 maybe?
Yeah, maybe queen a3. Maybe queen a3 also actually wins the same pawn. But I think you won the queen's on. I think the rook endgame you kind of know you're not winning. That would be my impression. That queen a3, I don't know, takes, rook b6, rook takes a4, and castles, and then rook fb8. I think you kind of accept that this is probably a reasonably easy technical draw, and he is.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, go ahead.
Horsehead Nebula is asking, why did Caruana play bishop e6 instead of bishop e7? There's two possible explanations. One is he mixed something up or couldn't remember his preparation. The other is he has actually looked at this position and concluded it's a safe enough draw. I think time usage would sort of argue against that, because then he would have done it a bit quicker. So I would guess just, there's many lines out there. He's not a lifelong Sveshnikov player. He's picked it up after the match, played it 2 or 3 times in classical. That this was maybe a line that he's seen on a computer screen once, but that he did not put a lot of emphasis on, and he just couldn't remember his notes.
Yeah. If he had like 140 here, I would be heavily leaning towards this being just a draw when you actually spend like a couple of hours kicking this around with the machine. But yeah, with an hour and 8 on the clock, you have to suspect he mixed something up. And yeah, queen c2, rook a4 on the board, and yeah, Sasha will have every reason to feel mildly optimistic here, because it's a pawn.
Yeah. Horsehead Nebula is saying, isn't bishop e7 analyzed to draw and bishop e6 first? Hardly looks better try. Yeah, I agree. That's what I was implying earlier on, that I think this line is more or less analyzed to draw.
Yeah.
But as I said, that was Grishuk's strategy. If he shows me the draw, it's fine. He might not remember, and Grishuk was proven right. And now he can put pressure for quite a while.
Yeah. And the first honorable mention of Grishuk's chair goes to my birthday sake, Kronstein 1706. Yeah, this is by this point a well-documented change, and he feels more comfortable using this little chair instead of the huge office chairs everybody else is using.
I'm being informed that we need to go for a quick break. We're trying to get the cameras up to speed. They were better yesterday, so apologies. We have to very briefly leave you guys alone. Hopefully we will get the bandwidth up from 1 picture per minute to 10 and be right back with you. Sorry for that. We'll be right back. Currently it looks like Grishuk is pressing. Carlsen plays a very unclear game against Dinglier, and probably not better. Shahmamedyarov versus MVL has been agreed drawn, and we shall try to catch the Armageddon action in its full glory starting very soon. So, we'll be right back.
Yeah, stay tuned.